From Kern Government Television, welcome to this week's Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting, originating from the County Administrative Center located at 1115 Truxtun Avenue, Bakersfield, California. Kern County's vision is to create and maintain a customer-centered county government designed to garner the confidence, support, and trust of the people we serve. Today's Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting will convene momentarily.
Board to reconvene. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Supervisor Peters.
Here.
Supervisor Scrivener.
Here.
Supervisor Maggard.
Here.
Supervisor Couch.
Here.
Supervisor Perez.
Here.
Good morning and welcome to the Tuesday, March 23rd, 9 a.m. meeting of the Board of Supervisors. Oh, looks like I got the wrong ones here. Okay, we will begin with a flag salute led by Supervisor Perez.
Thank you so much for the honor. Please stand. Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, I would like to call on Nick Colin, Director of the Animal Services Department, to introduce our pet of the week.
I love this part.
Me too.
Hi, Nick.
Hi, Nick.
All right, so who do we have here today?
We have Tucker. He's a 5-month-old male kitty. He's been with us about 6 weeks because he was pretty sick when he came in, so he's now looking for his forever home.
All right, seems like he's doing better.
Yes, much better.
Friendly guy. Well, hopefully we can find somebody to give him a new home today.
Yeah.
All right, I appreciate it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
The County of Kern has provided notice that as a result of the declared federal, state, and local emergencies due to the COVID-19 pandemic and in light of the governor's orders, this Board of Supervisors meeting is not physically open to the public. Testimony and general public comment are accepted via email or voice message to the clerk of the board prior to today's meeting, and live comments via teleconference will be heard during the meeting. We will begin by considering the consent agenda. All items listed with the CA above the item are considered to be routine and non-controversial by county staff. Consent items will be considered first and may be approved by one motion. If a member of the public wishes to comment or ask questions regarding an item on the consent agenda, they may do so prior to a vote being taken. A member of the board may remove any item from the consent agenda and it will be considered in listed sequence with an opportunity for any member of the public to address the board concerning the item before action is taken. A member of the public may also comment on any closed session item. At this time, I will read the consent agenda item numbers. That's items 1 through 7 and 9 through 11 on page 2, 12, 13, 16, 17, and 18 on page 3, 19 through 26 on page 4, 27 through 34 on page 5, 35 through 41 on page 6, 43 through 48 on page 7, 49 through 56 on page 8, and item 57 on page 9. Madam Clerk, is there any member of the public wishing to comment on the consent agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. We have one voicemail and a corresponding email which has been distributed to the board from Angel Galvez, CEO, Bakersfield American Indian Health Project, Inc., in support of item 21. We will hear the voicemail now.
Angel Galvez, Angelgalvez. This is regarding consent number 21. Dear Mr. Chairman Supervisor Peters and County Board of Supervisors, my name is Mr. Angel Galvez, I am the Chief Executive Officer with Bakersfield American Indian Health Project. My comments today are regarding the consent number 21, Behavioral Health and Recovery Memorandum of Understanding with Bakersfield American Indian Health Project. On behalf of our American Indian and Alaska Native people, our Madam Chairwoman, Ms. Jackie Lopez, who is a Tejon Indian, and the Board of Directors, as well as our Behavioral Health Department staff members, we thank you for your leadership and continuous support for mental health services across all underserved and unserved communities. It is an honor to be collaborating with the county's Behavioral Health and Recovery Services team to offer culturally appropriate coordinated care and improving the health status for American Indian and Alaska Native people. Together stronger, and once again, thank you for your partnership. Goodbye.
There are no further public comments.
Okay, thank you. Are there any items the board would like removed for discussion?
Motion on consent.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Great.
The vote is all ayes.
Thank you. We will now consider item number 8 under public requests. That is a request of Anna Lavin, Executive Director of the Bakersfield Kern Regional Homeless Collaborative, to address the board and provide a quarterly update for the period October through December 2020 on system performance measures and highlighting key developments and findings regarding homelessness in Kern County.
Good morning to the Board of Supervisors. Thank you so much for having myself and Deb Johnson be able to present to you today. I'm going to go ahead and take a moment to see if I can share my screen so that way you can see what we're seeing. So if I can go ahead and begin, today we're hoping to discuss the system performance and quarterly update for the Bakersfield Kern Regional Homeless Collaborative. What we're wanting to talk with you about is the system performance measures, some updates with regard to 211, which is our coordinated entry system and the point of entry for many folks who may be at risk of or experiencing homelessness. We'll also discuss the rent and mortgage assistance program, addressing those who are unsheltered, and some considerations for those who have districts in rural communities. So first we wanted to talk a little bit about system performance measures. When we look at the performance measures for those experiencing homelessness, there are two areas that we especially are concerned about. One is inflow, so the number of individuals who are experiencing homelessness for the first time. The second is outflow, the number of individuals who are experiencing homelessness for whom we are able to support in achieving permanent housing. In addition, we also often look at length of time homelessness, so the number of nights on average that individuals may stay in emergency shelter or temporary housing before achieving permanent housing, and the recidivism rate. So in other words, how successful are we in helping someone who achieves permanent housing in staying in that permanent housing over the course of 2 years? When we look at last year, 2020, it was quite a ride for us. What you can see here is that while we've always had a gap between those who are entering homelessness for the first time and those who are able to achieve permanent housing solutions, what we find is that in the fourth quarter of last year, we had a strong divergence. Those numbers of those experiencing homelessness for the first time increased dramatically to the highest point that we saw last year towards the end in October, November, and December. And what is particularly concerning to us is that the gap of those experiencing homelessness and our ability to achieve permanent housing solutions widened in the fourth quarter. Because we know that we had 2 new navigation centers, we had continuing efforts with housing vouchers, we believe that there are 2 factors that contributed to this widening gap. One is certainly the impacts of COVID on our community and the economic impacts that we've seen there. The second is that we've seen not only in our community, but across the state, incredibly low vacancy rates. It's estimated that we're at 2% or lower for vacancy rates for housing units. And so that makes it particularly difficult to find housing solutions if there's literally no supply. When we look at length of time homeless, this number also increased. This isn't surprising if our efforts to get folks housed end up finding a bottleneck, if you will. And so what you can see here is that in the fourth quarter, we saw an increase of length of time for those experiencing homelessness also. Homelessness recidivism rates in generally maintained a relative steadiness. This graph, because it only goes up to 30%, kind of emphasizes some of those bumps. But if it was to be shown on a 100% scale, you would see that those bumps that look relatively large are, in fact, relatively smooth. So we're particularly proud of our recidivism results. Again, this is over the course of 2 years if someone is able to achieve and maintain permanent housing after they've been housed. And our rates tend to be better than what you would see in a traditional housing market. And I think that has a lot to do with the incredible efforts of our homeless service providers. In addition to that, what you don't see on this graph is that for those who are experiencing or receive permanent supportive housing, so that means that we're providing supportive services while they are in their housing, our housing rates, our recidivism rates are even lower, so at about 5%. So what that tells us is that those who are receiving the most amount of support are also the most likely to be successful in maintaining their housing.
Good morning. My name is Deborah Johnson. I'm the President and CEO of the California Veterans Assistance Foundation and the Governing Board Chair of the Bakersfield-Kern Regional Homeless Collaborative. This morning, I'm going to talk a little bit about our 211 coordinated entry system. As it stands today, coordinated entry is the referral source for the M Street Navigation Center and is operated by the Community Action Partnership of Kern. Coordinated entry is a single point of access for the continuum of care. It assesses and refers individuals to resources to help them maintain or achieve permanent housing. This graph indicates what the intake call has been for the Community Action Partnership of Kern over the last 2 years. We initiated coordinated entry in January of 2019, and you can see throughout that year there was, a relative increase and a decrease towards the end of the year. But in 2020, kind of how it is matching the presentation that Anna had given, we had steady calls until the fourth quarter of 2020. We believe a lot of that has to do with the the rental and utility assistance program that was operated, which caused that dramatic increase. But it just shows that the last quarter of 2020 has really hit our community and our members very hard. The Housing Authority was provided mortgage assistance programs with funding through the city of Bakersfield and the county of Kern. We can all see what that allotment was. This grant paid bills directly to landlords or lenders for individuals and families impacted by COVID-19. The maximum payment for each household was $10,000, and the household income was up to 120% of area median income. You can see that the city of Bakersfield funding was from 9/21 to 12/31, and that the county was allowed the Housing Authority to extend the amount of grants a little bit longer. That funding helped 1,529 households in the city of Bakersfield and the county of Kern. It shows how critically important funding to try to keep people in housing is for our community. 790 households in the city of Bakersfield retain their housing, and 739 in the county of Kern. The economic impact of COVID has dramatically affected our community, and it shows how funding can help us retain people in their housing.
So one of the things that we would wanted to talk about with you is the unsheltered population. That tends to be an area of concern for many folks because those are the folks who are most visible in terms of experiencing homelessness. We also know that many tend to be a little more disruptive to our community. They're also oftentimes the most difficult to place. Anecdotally, we also know that there may be some behavioral health conditions for whom we want to particularly be concerned about. So we are working incredibly closely with behavioral health and recovery services out of the county to address those needs. Having said that, a lot of our analysis indicates that that particular population who would need permanent supportive housing solutions, in other words, an emphasis on supportive services while they're in housing, is a large number. So we estimate that 790 unsheltered people would need permanent supportive housing. And that is an area of concern for us, and we're looking to determine what some avenues of support may be so that we can expand those opportunities and get folks into housing.
So Kern County, as we all know, is extremely vast. So we are experiencing some rural capacity issues. Our point-in-time counts have been critically underrepresented the number of individuals experiencing homelessness in the rural communities. We are working on avenues to try to correct that, kind of like as we speak. The rural committee, we have a rural homeless committee that is focused on capacity building, partnering with faith communities, grassroots stakeholders, and community-based organizations. It is critical that we band together as organizations to try to address this as an issue that affects the whole county. But we also know in the rural community, each pocket has to be addressed a little bit differently. What it can be experienced in the Ridgecrest area may not fit the same as Lake Isabella. So we want to make sure that we have those partners in all of those rural communities to be able to find how we can serve them the best. And that fits in for the fit for purpose strategies and approaches. With the recent HHAP-2 focus, some funding through the state of California, we're looking at improving access to supportive services and housing as quickly as possible, expanding case management. Case management is critical to maintaining and keeping our people in permanent housing.
So our commitment to you is that first and foremost, we will continue to endeavor to quantify the needs for supply and demand for permanent supportive housing solutions for those who are unsheltered. We will continue to look at innovative solutions in order to be able to expand permanent supportive housing and in particular establish targets over a 5-year period of time for permanent supportive housing development. And finally, we want to ensure that you know of our commitment to invest in grassroots capacity building and service provider expansion in rural and outlying communities. And with that, that concludes our presentation. And we're certainly open to any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Levin and Ms. Johnson. Appreciate all your hard work on that. Looks like there's a lot of good stuff going on in that presentation and a lot more work ahead. Are there any questions from the board on that presentation? Okay, I don't see any, so thank you again for sharing that with us today. Okay, the board will now consider item number 14, public presentations. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons to address the board on any matter not on this agenda, but under the jurisdiction of the board. Board members may respond briefly to statements made or questions posed. They may ask a question for clarification, make a referral to staff for factual information, or request staff to report back to the board at a later meeting. Also, the board may take action to direct the staff to place a matter of business on a future agenda. Speakers are limited to 2 minutes. Please state and spell your name before making your presentation. Madam Clerk, do we have anybody wishing to speak today?
Mr. Chairman, we've received emails from Jessica Gax and Carmen Lomelli, county employees regarding employee wages. The emails have been distributed to the board. We also have one voice message from Sky Dent regarding the diversity officer position, which we will hear now.
Hi, Ms. Grouse. This is Sky Dent. I'm calling to discuss two topics. One, the new diversity officer position, which I hope will prevent the continued exclusion of highly qualified employees of color within county offices. I'm also calling to speak about the current hearing selecting the Kern County Grand Jury, which for the umpteenth time has a recruitment structure geared to bring in primarily all white men. At a recent meeting of grand jury staff and prospective grand jury applicants, the woman in charge pointed towards a group of all white people behind her and admitted that the grand jury staff itself was mainly white and up in age. And when I questioned how the staff recruited people for the grand jury, she became defensive, looked at my color, assumed I was black, and so the lack of minorities, she sent out press releases to the Bakersfield Black Chamber of Commerce and the Bakersfield Californian. Recruiting a diverse pool of grand jury applicants isn't a matter of typing off a few lines and tossing the responsibility to the local news media. Now, I happen to know this because I have a BA in Latin American Studies from Brown, an MA in Journalism from the University of Missouri, and an MFA from NYU Tisch School of the Arts. I was an editorial writer for the Oakland Tribune. I've written for AP, the Boston Globe, and CBS News. I've taught journalism and filmmaking at the University of North Carolina, and I was a unit publicist for 4 years. So I know the similar bull being sent to me in letters from the grand jury office was their own version of an alternate reality, because I've also sold scripts to Star Trek. So it concerns me that she refused to speak to a member of the public on this subject and instead distributed email ignoring equity, inclusion, and diversity concerns that are being debated throughout the country. Going back in Bakersfield racist history, perhaps Noel Haggard would have been able to say his one true love, Irma Jackson, if not for racism. A grand jury staff also sent a letter saying we should wait until after the grand jury's selection to change the selection procedure, to which any reasonable person would say, duh. Again, the county is hiring a diversity officer. Since the grand jury cannot change the diversity of the grand jury, hand the responsibility to that person. Even though the education and experience required of the new Kern County diversity officer is far less than that of any diversity officer representing a city the size of Bakersfield for some unknown reason. Give her each a chance. I request that you halt the current process of creating a grand jury, extend the length of the search for a new diversity officer beyond what it is, increase the educational requirements.
Mr. Chairman, there are no more public comments.
Thank you very much. Next is item number 15, board member announcements or reports, and I would like to begin by asking our Director of Public Health Services, Bryn Kerrigan, to provide a brief update on the COVID-19 pandemic.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Good morning.
Last week, we announced that Kern County met the red tier metrics within the state's blueprint for a safer economy. The blueprint requires the county to meet the metrics of the less restrictive tier for 2 consecutive weeks before we officially move to that tier. Today, the state will announce that Kern County has met the red tier metrics for 2 consecutive weeks, and Kern County will officially move to the red tier effective tomorrow. Specifically, our adjusted case rate this week is 5.5 per 100,000 people. Compared to last week, it was 7.8 per 100,000 people. The red tier requires us to be within 10 per 100,000 people. Our testing positivity rate this week is 2.8%, compared to last week at 3.7%, and required to be under 8% to be within the red tier. The orange tier requires us to be at 4.9%, so we are within the orange tier for our testing positivity rate. Our health equity positivity rate this week is 3.9%, compared to 4.9% last week. The red tier requires us to be under 8%, and the orange tier requires us to be at 5.2%. So we are also within the orange tier on our health equity positivity rate. Effective tomorrow, the following changes are allowable in the red tier. Retail capacity can increase from 25% to 50%. Shopping center capacity can increase from 25% to 50%, and food courts can reopen with modifications. Museums, zoos, and aquariums can open indoors. Movie theaters can open indoors at 25% capacity or 100 people, whichever is fewer. Hotels and lodging can open fitness centers at 10% capacity. Restaurants can open indoors at 25% capacity or 100 people, whichever is fewer. Effective April 1st, when outdoor live events are permitted to resume, they will be open at 20% capacity for in-state visitors only with advanced reservations. Also of importance to note, we not only meet the red metrics, but our testing positivity rate and our health equity metric meet the orange tier metrics. The state's blueprint for a safer economy require a county to remain in a tier for at least 3 weeks and meet the metrics of the less restrictive tier for at least 2 weeks. Kern County could move to the orange tier as early as April 7th. Furthermore, when California hits the goal of 4 million doses of vaccine administered within the lowest quartile, the case rate threshold to move from the red to the orange tier changes from 3.9 per 100,000 people to 5.9 per 100,000 people, essentially allowing us more flexibility. A Supreme Court decision last week changed the reopening requirements for schools. Junior high and high schools were previously required to wait to reopen until the county was in the red tier. The updated guidance was released this past Friday, and it allows junior high and high schools to reopen at the same time that elementary schools reopen, which is when a county's case rate is at 25 per 100,000 people or below. We were notified late on Thursday evening that COVID variant B117 was identified in Kern County. B117 is the first variant that has been identified in Kern County. First detected in the United Kingdom, as of March 19th, there have been 471 cases identified of this variant in California. Definitive analysis about B117 is still pending, but the United Kingdom Advisory Group has suggested that infection with B117 is associated with an increased risk of hospitalization and death. However, studies suggest that antibodies generated through vaccination with currently authorized vaccines recognize this variant. Identifying this variant in Kern County is a reminder of the importance to stay vigilant with our COVID mitigation measures to avoid a third surge, as CDC indicates that this variant is more transmissible and will spread faster and easier than the original version of COVID-19. As of yesterday, the county has been allocated 227,765 doses of the COVID-19 vaccine, including 11,760 doses expected to arrive by the end of the day today. As of yesterday, 230,164 doses have been administered to Kern County residents. 75,509 people have completed their vaccination series, which is about 8.2% of our population. 99,910 doses have been administered to our 65-plus population. 40,422 people that are 65 or older have completed their vaccination series, meaning 37% of our 65 and older population have been fully vaccinated. Unfortunately, our vaccine allotment has decreased since our highest week of 30,270 on March 8th. Last week, Kern's allotment was 23,890 with no doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. This week, Kern's allotment is 20,440 with an additional 1,000 doses of Johnson & Johnson vaccine given directly to a special clinic at Bakersfield College that was held over the weekend. We continue to advocate for more vaccine and more Johnson & Johnson doses as it helps us get our community vaccinated quicker. If we continue to receive vaccine at the rate we are receiving it now, it will take an additional 8 weeks to completely vaccinate our 65 and older population at the 70% allotment currently required by the state. It will take 45 weeks to get the rest of our 16 and older population fully vaccinated. If the vaccine gets approved for those under 16 years of age, it will take 68 weeks to get our entire population vaccinated at this rate. This weekend, we will launch vaccination information booths throughout Kern County. These booths will be located in areas frequented by county residents. Bilingual nurses will staff these booths and can answer vaccine-related questions for members of our community and help to dispel any myths regarding the vaccine. We will also have the ability to assist our residents with signing up for appointments in the My Turn system for a vaccination. This weekend, our vaccination information booths will be located at the Swap Meet and Mercado Latino in Bakersfield and at Fiesta Market in Wasco. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this completes my update.
Thank you, Mrs. Kerrigan. Before hearing from the ad hoc committee, are there any questions? Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Supervisor Maggard?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Kerrigan, thank you for your report. Do we have any sense of what's happening to cause the amount of dosages that we're receiving to be declining so significantly?
Supervisor Maggard, through the chair, the only thing that we can equate it to is that Johnson & Johnson has not been allocated for the past 2 weeks, and that accounted for 8,500 doses that week that we saw the largest amount of vaccine be allocated to Kern.
And is there any discussion of what is in the pipeline coming towards us? Is there a reason to hope that we might get more again?
We were told that we wouldn't receive any for 2 to 3 weeks, and then we would likely start receiving Johnson & Johnson again thereafter.
Very good. What is the situation with high school sports? There was some confusion about that, and the governor's edict implied that only one visitor could come per athlete. We simply notified the high school district of the governor's edict, but the high school district has taken a position to allow, I think it's 4 per person, and we're, they can make that decision, and we won't try to block it. But there was some confusion about that. Is there anything else we need to expand upon, or did I state that properly?
Supervisor Maggard, through the chair, you stated that properly.
Okay, thank you. I want to thank Tom Beckett and everybody that's working at our fairgrounds site. I know it's a lot more than just Tom, but I don't know about my colleagues, but I continue to get comments from the public about how pleased they are about the service they received, how quick it was, how kind they were, how effective it was. That we're just doing a fabulous job there, and I'm proud of everyone in the county who has done such a marvelous job, and even the private entities, the medical practices and hospitals and whatnot. It's just fantastic that we have the ability to distribute so much, and I just hope that we get more vaccines so we can get more people on board and really turn the corner on this thing. So thank you very much. I appreciate your presentation and all that you were doing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Supervisor Scrivener?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Supervisor Maggard, thank you for your questions and comments. Ms. Kerrigan, we were told when this all started that the purpose behind flattening the curve was to prevent our hospitals from being overwhelmed. So where do we sit as far as ICU capacity and hospitalizations?
Supervisor Scrivener, through the chair, we're seeing our hospitalizations and ICUs due to COVID-19 at one of the lowest rates that we've seen it in quite a long time. We are going to continue to have those ICU nurses that are funded through the county in the hospitals in case we do start to see a third surge.
Great, thank you. I think that's the best indicator of how well the county's done to address this pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Scrivener. Supervisor Couch?
Thank you. Thank you for that report. Could you send us that in a document?
Supervisor Couch, through the chair, absolutely.
I can share that? Okay, thank you. Where are we with vaccinating those over 65 plus others? Describe that
Supervisor Couch, through the
stage
chair.
we're in.
We're making progress. We're using all of the vaccine that's been allotted to our county at the week that we receive it. So we are getting those vaccines into the arms of those individuals. I don't have the specific numbers in front of me about the timeline to get those total populations that are eligible currently, but I can definitely bring that back.
Well, right now, are we still just only giving those over 65?
No,
We're giving those to farm workers. Describe the other categories.
Sure. So right now, those that are eligible are healthcare workers, those that are 65 and older, those that are in the food and ag workers, those that are educators and childcare and emergency services. And then this week, we started vaccinating those that are the homeless population, those that work in the homeless industry, those that are incarcerated, those that work in those jails. And then we're also vaccinating those that are 16 to 64 that have underlying health conditions.
And are there percentages that you're trying to allocate the vaccine to in those categories?
So far, the state has only required that we do that 70-30 split. It was 70% of our vaccine is supposed to go to those that are 65 and older, and then 30% to the remaining categories. And then 40% of that 30% that's going to the remaining categories is supposed to go to those that reside within the lowest quartile.
So here's my question. I want us to be nimble enough that when the demand goes down from those over 65 that we're focusing on, that we can shift and give doses to others that are in line but are just waiting because we're still saying it's 65 plus for 70%. How are we planning for that?
Supervisor Couch, through the chair, we agree completely. Right now, we just ask that providers ensure that if anybody is 65 and older, that they have access to an appointment. But the state system that allows people to make appointments does not have, a 70% sort of block for only those that are 65 and older. So really, anybody that's eligible can make an appointment at this point.
And I'm not opposed to what I'm about to tell you, but I'm hearing that lots of people that go in for a regular checkup or whatever that are not 65, have no underlying health conditions, are just asked, do you want the vaccine? And they're given it. So I think we're sticking to a very sort of strict guideline, and others may not be, but they're giving out vaccine, which is fine. Do you hear the same thing?
We're not hearing that.
Oh, okay. I don't want to get anyone in trouble because
Sure.
I think they're giving vaccine out, which is what they should be doing, but I don't want us to wait. I just don't want us to wait on giving someone a vaccine that wants it because we're sort of playing hardball with some sort of guideline.
Absolutely, I agree, and we're not holding back any vaccine.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you, Supervisor Couch. Supervisor Perez?
Thank you very much. Bren, thank you for all your hard work. I was so amazed at Sunday's turnout and at the efficacy of the operation. It really was perfect from everything that I could tell. Lots of participation, lots of interest, lots of last-minute interest. So that was very pleasing to me because you don't know what your demand is going to be in actuality on a given day for a one-shot dose that we'd had here with Johnson & Johnson. So it was new to me, and I thought it was very, very well run. BC, the entire administrative staff there, and the nurses who were involved in helping, the folks at CLC, it was just really remarkable. And it was something really to be lauded. And I'm so grateful that we are doing different types of infrastructure arrangements or set up while we anticipate a huge kind of vaccine allotment which is coming our way. So these infrastructure opportunities really show us what our capacity are and I thought it was extraordinary on Sunday. So those folks really deserve a lot of credit and thanks because they got a lot of people in and out, and whatever the varying efficacy rates are, or they're certainly reducing the likelihood of transmission in a way that's material and significant, and I am so, so grateful. So thank you for, all the role that the county has played, or the role the county has played. Christian in my office, of course, a rock star, did so much to make sure that rolled out smoothly, and my staff, frontline, and I'm so grateful for them. So thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Perez. Ms. Kerrigan, I was just going to ask, as far as our prioritization, how does that work in relation to the My Turn system that was implemented? Are we getting, is the state website prioritizing people as they come in, or is there certain metrics that we've asked them to follow as they schedule appointments, or how does that work?
Mr. Chairman, the state determines who's eligible, and then the My Turn system asks a series of questions to determine that somebody meets those eligibility requirements. Unfortunately, at this time, while the state has said that we're required to have that 70-30 split for how the vaccine is allotted, their My Turn system does not have any parameters within the system to ensure that those metrics are met. So anybody that's eligible can get on and get an appointment.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Okay, are there any other questions? Okay,
Great. Thank you.
Okay, are there any other board member announcements or reports? Supervisor Couch?
Can we get a report back one of these days, soon hopefully, on what's happening with our firefighters and their pay and the issue with, I've forgotten what you called the hours worked piece that was, I'm hearing that there's still some issues with that. Maybe in a week, or we don't meet next week, maybe in 2 weeks? Oh, 3 weeks. Oh, we need something for then. Sorry.
I'm going to be discussing that with your board today in closed session, Supervisor, under our labor item.
Okay, is there, I'm sorry, I'll ask you later, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Supervisor Couch. Any other questions, comments? Okay, next we'll move to item number 42 under the Fire Department. That is the proposed reorganization of the Fire Prevention Division as recommended by the Center for Public Safety Management.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm just super excited operationally. This could impact us in a very positive way to find efficiencies and not impact the fire fund. I'm proud of the team effort of your Fire Marshal, Derek Tysinger, Chief Duncan, 1301, David Nelson, Devin Brown, and Brent Curry. And I want to say a special thanks to Brent Curry because he helped us throughout this whole process make sure we were in line with not impacting the fire fund and that it was a well thought out process up late at night, helping us through this process. So you had the CEO's office, the management from the fire department, as well as 1301 working together for a common goal. And this proposal before you, I'm just super excited, and I'm going to hand it over to your fire marshal to give you the presentation.
Thank you, Chief. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman Peters and members of the board. Derek Tysinger, Fire Marshal for the Kern County Fire Department. I just want to reiterate what Chief Witt said. It was a pleasure working with the CAO's office and Local 1301 to bring this plan before you today. The item before you today is a proposed reorganization of the Fire Department's Fire Prevention Division as recommended by the Center for Public Safety's Operational and Administrative Analysis of the Kern County Fire Department. The plan presented will improve customer service, responsiveness, and efficiency while reducing overall risk to the community. The Fire Prevention Division currently manages over 1,800 permits and 12,000 inspections annually. We provide new construction plan review and enforcement of the fire code for Kern County and our contract cities. We oversee both commercial and residential fire sprinkler systems, fire alarms, Title 19 business inspections, urban interface inspections, and standbys for fireworks and movie shoots, just to name a few. Current challenges and complexities the plan will help address include limited staffing with an increase in service demands related to SRA areas, residential fire sprinklers, impacts to an already strained operations and administrative staff, and an increased workload from managing and oversight of the hazard reduction program, and growth in large-scale commercial development we're seeing all across Kern County. We're proposing a three-step process that will be completed in July of 2023. The plan will alleviate engine companies from inspection duties to focus on operational response obligations and provide a more effective and consistent approach to increase fire prevention outreach, education, and address necessary improvements in EMS. We will be reassigning and eliminating 4 fire captains, 1 OSS, and 1 fire engineer. We will be applying costs for these positions to an FSS, FST, fire plan examiner, 4 fire inspectors, 2 civilian assistant fire marshals, a PIO, and a senior EMS coordinator. Step 1 in July of 2021 would eliminate 1 OSS, 1 fire engineer, and 1 fire captain would be assigned to the EMS division, and 1 fire captain would be reassigned to operations. A senior EMS coordinator, fire plan examiner, PIO, FSS, FST, and 3 fire inspectors will be added. Step 2, in July of 2022, would reassign one fire captain to operations in favor of one civilian assistant fire marshal. Step 3, in July of 2023, would reassign one fire captain to operations in favor of one civilian assistant fire marshal and one fire inspector. The proposed reorganization plan allows for continuous improvement by increasing efficiency with the addition of much-needed resources to maximize operational needs, enhance service excellence and retention, and reduce overall risk to our community. In closing, we are asking the board to approve the proposed reorganization of the Fire Prevention Division as recommended by the Center for Public Safety Management and refer to Human Resources to amend departmental positions and salary schedule.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, are there any members of the public wishing to comment?
There's no public comment for this item.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions from the board? Okay. Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Oh, I'm sorry. Zach, were you going to say something? Go ahead, you beat me.
No, not at all. I don't mean to step in front of you. I just wanted to confirm, so this was one of the recommendations from the what is it, CPSM? Do I have that acronym correct?
That's correct.
From their study? Okay, so great. So that's another box that we've checked as far as that study was concerned for changes in the department?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Thank you. Madam Perez?
Zach, did you want to make a motion?
I'd be happy to second yours if you
Okay,
want.
got it. I'm happy to make the motion. Thank you, Zach. And thank you guys for your openness and the CAO's office working together, communicating in new ways. This is encouraging. Everything matters. And as we get to know this department better too, I think we can be of better service to you guys as well. So really, thank you for your hard work and for sticking in there. It's been a rough couple of years, but I think we're improving. And that's the point. So thank you for your hard work. Chief, thank you. And to Dave Nelson, thank you. CAO, Brett, thank you so much. I'll make the motion to, is it to receive and file?
No, it would be a motion to approve staff's recommendation, correct?
Okay, so I'll make a motion on staff's recommendation. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Zach.
Please cast your votes.
The vote is all ayes.
Thank you. Okay, having no more items to consider in open session, I will entertain a motion to adjourn to closed session to consider item 58 and item 59 under the County Administrative Office, as well as items 60 through 63 under the County Council's office.
So moved.
Without objection, we're adjourned.
People with hepatitis C don't know how or when they became infected. A blood test is the only way to know if you have it.